I'm Cerise, and this is A Tradition of Violence. In the lead up to the primary election on June 2nd, I'm sitting down with all of the candidates for sheriff. The race hasn't really been covered, and it's important that voters have a full picture of who's running. Today I'm going to be speaking with Oscar Martinez, a lieutenant at the Palmdale station. Oscar is a proponent of the constitutional sheriff's movement, which falsely asserts that local sheriff's power supersedes that of local government, state and federal legislatures, even the authority of the President of the United States. Oscar is running on an extremely conservative platform. He promises to implement more cooperation with federal immigration authorities and introduce AI across the department. He wants to see the department cut down its use of force policy in favor of something resembling what he used as a Marine in a war zone. He said he would fight lawsuits brought against the department in spite of an elevated cost to taxpayers. Oscar told me he has never seen any deputy gangs and that he doubts the validity of families who have been harassed by deputies. And he even told me that deputies have the right to have swastika tattoos. The conversation is an illuminating look at some of the ideas that are percolating within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We'll find out in June if they're taking root across the county. I'm here in Santa Clarita Central Park with Oscar Martinez, candidate for sheriff. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
No, thank you so much for being here.
So to start off, I'd love to hear about your law enforcement career and what prompted you to run for sheriff.
So I started my adult career. I left the seminary. Went to the United States Marine Corps, where I served for 8 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. Tough 8 years, but it was a great honor to have served my country. Immediately after the Marine Corps, I joined the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. I've been there for about 17 years now. And I have done patrol, custody, the jails. In fact, I used to be part of the inspection team. That used to inspect the jails, make sure that we're following the standards. Public affairs, professional standards. I was also executive aide, that's the chief's aide. And now I am assigned to Palmdale Station as a watch commander. So I am still in the department, I'm still active, and I'm running against my boss. Now, to answer your question why I'm running, law enforcement, at the end of the day, is the part of government that affects us the most. And at the end of the day, we all need public safety. We need public safety either to go to church, to go to the park, to go to the nightclub, to do whatever you got to do. You got to have public safety. Without good, strong public safety, the economy will not thrive. That being said, what I've seen in the last few years is that our public safety is being taken over by politics. Law enforcement should be at the service of all. It should be led by a constitutional sheriff, not by someone who wants to do more politics than actual policing. And that's why I'm running for sheriff.
So what's the first thing that you would change at the Sheriff's Department should you be elected?
I have to be careful with the word change because I know a lot of people running in this campaign saying on the first day I'm going to change this. Anybody that knows the county, nothing changes in one day. Nothing. In one day you come up with the idea. In 6 months you got to start implementing, and hopefully within 1 year that implementation it takes place. But there's one thing that I'm going to change immediately on day one, and that is I am going to identify the mission of the LA County Sheriff's Department. So shall I be blessed to be elected the sheriff of this county? The mission of the Sheriff's Department is going to be to fight and prevent crime. Law enforcement is not here to fix the homeless issue. It's not here to fix the mental health issue. It's not here to fix any political, social issue that may be going on right now. It is there for one thing only, to fight crime, in accordance with our Constitution and, of course, based in our department policy.
Is it difficult for you as someone who is active duty on the Sheriff's Department right now to be running against your boss?
It's not difficult. Number one, I don't see him, thank God. But at the same time, how much longer are we going to sit there and watch our county, our state, our country being ruled by people that think that they are above everybody else? I got to help my partners and I got to help the community that are seeing a policing service that have completely been degraded in the last 10 years.
That degradation, what does that look like?
Well, number one, the messaging. I give you a lot of credit for what you do. I think what you're doing out there is great. I know a lot of people disagree with you, especially in law enforcement. I disagree with you in a lot of the things that you say. But you have freedom of the press, and we need that. We need someone who's going to challenge us, who's going to ask the tough questions, and who's going to keep us in check, because you pay taxes. And your taxes is what funds what we do. That being said, you're telling your story. Where's the sheriff? Where are the chiefs telling the story of law enforcement? I believe that that's what we need to do. We need to sell ourselves first and explain what we do instead of letting other people explain what we do and how we're supposed to do it.
more messaging to the public, speaking directly to the public?
Well, there is messaging to the public, but it's a very politically correct message. After George Floyd, which was a tragedy, don't get me wrong, but immediately after George Floyd, all these departments in California started changing their policy because of what happened in Minneapolis. We didn't have to change any of our policies. We didn't have to go out there. And I remember some chiefs apologizing for what happened. I'm like, why are you apologizing? We had nothing to do with that. We have come a long way since the Rodney King incident, but we didn't talk about that. What did they do? Oh, I'm sorry, we're gonna do better. Why? Show your story, explain to the people what we have done. Do we have things that we need to fix in California as far as policing? 100%. Any institution that's made up of human beings is gonna make mistakes. Any institution that's made up of human beings that are sworn to protect, to do something good, it's gonna have one or two, if not more people, that are gonna do the wrong thing, the illegal thing. That's part of life. From the Roman Catholic Church to any type of police agencies. If you have human beings in your institution, you're gonna have mistakes, you're gonna have certain crimes. The question is, what are we gonna do to prevent that and to mitigate that? I believe that should be the question.
I think that's a good segue to talk about uses of force.
Yes.
So I'll ask you a personal question. Have you ever been involved in any fatal shootings?
In the Sheriff's Department, no. Marine Corps, did I kill anyone? I don't know. You know, it was downrange, as we say, so I don't know. In the Sheriff's Department, I myself have never been involved in a shooting. No.
How do you feel about the department's use of force policy?
The department use of force policy is 50 pages long. To be exact, 49 and a half pages long. Let me ask you something. How do you expect someone to know what to do in 3 seconds when the policy is 50 pages long? And it's just repeating some kind of political mantra that has nothing to do with better training and better policing. As a Christian, I hope that we never have to kill anyone in the line of duty. But that's not reality. We have guys out there pointing guns at us, pointing knives at us. We have guys out there shooting at us. You cannot expect law enforcement to shoot back with a taser. They're there to protect the community. That being said, we need good training. It needs to be constitutional. But 50 pages explaining what to do in a use of force incident, it's overkill. And it's not going to do any good because the average deputy is not going to sit there and read 50 pages. We got to have clear policies. In the military, we call this the ROEs, the rules of engagement. And to be honest with you, when I went into Iraq, when I went into Afghanistan, we got a rules of engagement in a business card at the side of your phone. That's combat. That was in war. But yet here, we have 50 pages of explaining what we can and should not do.
Do you think we should see a simplified use of force policy similar to the rules of engagement of war?
Not as a simplified, because obviously here we're dealing with American citizens. Over there we're dealing with enemies. The American people are not enemies. It doesn't matter who's coming against me here in law enforcement in the communities. They're not the enemy. They are American citizens, and we have to remember constitutional rights. But that being said, we have to have rules that are realistic. We have to have policies that are realistic, based on the Constitution, of course. The way it is right now, it's not working out. So it is very confusing. And when I say the use of force policy, I'm talking about the entire use of force policy, not just shooting. I'm talking about
that includes
striking, using the taser, pepper spray, we call it OC spray, whatever have you. So that's what I'm talking about when I say it's 50 pages long, and it's just completely overkill. And if you ask me, to be honest with you, it's ridiculous to have that in writing.
I want to talk to you about how that use of force policy translates into financial outcomes. We've seen the County of Los Angeles spend about $112 million in the last fiscal year to defend the department from lawsuits resulting from shootings or uses of force. And that number has continued to rise year after year, placing significant financial stress on the county.
Agree.
Do you have a plan to curb those costs?
Well, this goes back to what I was telling you earlier, selling our story. I believe the way you asked me the question was the county has paid to, did you say the county has paid to fight those lawsuits? Or,
to defend against
okay,
those
right there,
lawsuits.
that's the key. They did not spend that money to defend those lawsuits. They settled. So defending is going to court, proving your case.
Yeah, that's I'm including that as well, the attorney costs.
Well, it's different. That's different because I guarantee you, if we were to go to court for every one of those cases, 95% of the times the county will win. At first, that's going to be extremely expensive because at the end of the day, the reason why the county settles, from a financial point of view, it makes sense. It is cheaper to settle than to fight it in court. But let's say we do something for 2 years. People of LA County, we're going to fight every one of these lawsuits. It's going to cost you probably twice that amount. What's going to happen in those 2 years after all those people lose their cases and the attorneys realize what's happening? They're going to stop suing.
I want to make sure that I have this correctly. So your stance is, let's go ahead and fight these cases all the way.
Yes, in part. However, there are some cases we should settle. Why? There's either issue with training, there's either issue with misunderstanding and communication, and at the end of the day, especially if there's some kind of miscommunication with the information, these are families that are suffering, they lost a loved one. Even though the shooting is justified, the county as an entity, as a government entity responsive to we the people, should compensate them in some way, shape, or form. I think there's a lot of cases, let's go to court, let's fight it, and let's see what the judge says. Because at the end of the day, we're not out here doing whatever we want. We have to do it in accordance with the Constitution as told to us by the courts, if that makes sense.
A large number of these lawsuits are brought by, as you mentioned, people's families. The victims were in a mental health crisis. What do you think is the best approach?
My sheriff's deputies are not going to go to calls for services that involve mental health only. If there's no third party, if there's no crime, we're not going. We need to get law enforcement out of the mental health business. That's not our job. Our deputies are not trained to do that.
How about the MET teams, the mental health evaluation teams that are stationed throughout the county? For people that might not be familiar, these are the teams that consist of a trained clinician that is accompanied by deputies that are tasked with responding to mental health calls, and they work on a limited basis. Do you think we should continue employing those teams, or is that something that you would do away with?
We should continue employing them for calls involving a crime or when a third party is in danger. But someone calls law enforcement, I have a mental episode, I'm going to kill myself. We're going to transfer you to the Department of Mental Health. Once we confirm there's no one else in the house, especially children, we're not going to go to the house. However, if someone calls me, I'm here with my children and I'm going to kill myself, we're going to break down that door. We're going to go through that wall if we have to, and we're going to rescue those children.
A follow-up question circling back to the lawsuits brought by people who have lost a loved one after a use of force. Many of those families have reported facing harassment from deputies following the shooting. What's your stance on that? Do you think that deputies that are engaging in that kind of behavior should be disciplined at all?
First of all, I've heard about this. I have never seen any evidence that this is happening. And to be honest with you, I don't know of any deputy that will have the time or the energy to do that. So I do kind of question that or where it's coming from, if it's even true. I'll stipulate that it's true. If it's true, 100% there will be discipline. Because whether or not that community or that family that's suing us, whether or not they're right or wrong, that's not for us to determine. That's for the courts to determine.
One of the biggest topics, I think, for people thinking about the Sheriff's Department is the deputy gang issue.
Yes.
What is your stance on deputy gangs?
I've never seen them.
Never seen them?
I've never seen the gangs. 17 years. For the last 10 years, I've been hearing about deputy gangs. Where are these gangs? I've never seen them. Have I seen deputies with tattoos? 100%. I don't have a tattoo. Let me know if you want me to take my shirt off. But I tell you what, Ms. Castle, I'll stipulate there's gangs. And this is my question to you, because you went deep into this. For 2 years, 2022 to 2024, you had the two most anti-law enforcement, anti-law and order elected officials in LA County, George Gascon and Robert Luna, together. One was district attorney, George Gascon, and Robert Luna, who's playing sheriff. So for 2 years, you had them in power. They had full access to all the files. They had the ability to prosecute. Where are the prosecutions?
That's a question I want to know the answer to as well.
We both want to know. If these gangs are there, where are the prosecutions? That being said, if I am sheriff and I find out of any gang membership, if they're there, of any crime committed in the furtherance of that gang, I will be the first one walking that file to the district attorney asking for filing. But I have to be honest with you, I've never seen these gangs. I've never seen them act on behalf to improve the gangs. I've never seen a roster. I've seen a lot of guys with tattoos getting together to have a few adult drinks and talk about war stories and then going back home. That's what I've seen. If that's a gang to you, that's your definition, I respect it. But the way I was raised in law enforcement to understand what a gang is, I haven't seen them.
how are you defining station tattoo? Is it like a matching ink, like tied to a station? What's your point of view?
So every station has its own logo. Usually most station commonly is the diamond. It's a diamond with the station number, and usually like a color in the middle, like a color line. And it will have the three, what we call the three alphabet of the station. So Palmdale's PLM, Compton, and CPT. That's the station logo that I'm speaking about. But there's some other unofficial one where they will have like the thin blue flag on the actual logo. They will have a skull on the logo, something like that. Those are the unofficial ones. The other common one is like the cross rifle. Same thing I saw in the military, by the way. They were not gang members, at least to my knowledge. I believe, in my opinion, that's an internal thing. Keep it internally for your pride. Put it inside the walls of the station as a symbol of pride. I work in Palmdale. I'm proud of what I do. I work in South LA. I'm proud of my station. I'm proud of my family here in South LA. But in the outside, this should be the only logo, the Sheriff's Star. Not only it brings unison and integrity to our department, but it's a better public image as well.
Current Sheriff Robert Luna ran on a platform of eradicating deputy gangs. And when I say deputy gangs, I'm talking about bandidos,
Yes.
For example. They have a tattoo that is the skeleton wearing the sombrero. He's got the bandoliers, the revolvers, and there are numerical...
That's ridiculous.
Oh, have you seen the
I've
logo?
seen it. I've seen the logo. I find it childish.
So those, for example.
Yes.
Regulators is
Yes.
another one. And several people that are in senior leadership at the department have been found to have ties to these deputy gangs.
Yes.
And they have been defined as deputy gangs, not just by me and my reporting, but we've had the special counsel report, the Loyola report, the RAND study. Should you be elected sheriff, would you keep people that have those ties in those leadership roles?
I'm going to have to go back to your question earlier about lawsuits. If I was to fire someone for having that tattoo, how much do you think the lawsuit is going to be? You cannot fire people or deny someone due process for a tattoo. You cannot. At the end of the day, whether I like that tattoo or not. So I'll give you a perfect example. I'm going to go even a step further to prove the point here. Let's say I have someone that qualifies to be a captain. They've done whatever they got to do. They check the box, every box to be a captain. They have a degree, whatever have you. They qualify to be a good captain. Hey, this person's going to be captain. We promote them. We find out they have a swastika in their back. Hey, we can't promote you because you have a swastika. I'm telling you, we're not going to go to court on that. We're going to settle. Not only are they going to be captain, they're going to get millions of dollars. You can have a swastika, tattoo swastika. Would I ever have a swastika? Would I ever fly a swastika? Of course not. 100% no. I find that not only disrespectful, it's just unchristian as well, and it's not what our society represents anymore. But that's their right. It is their right to have that. If they act on it, that's a different question. We got a crime now. But someone having a tattoo of a skull with a sombrero and whatever have you, which I find ridiculous, absent an act, there's not much you can do for that. Now, that goes back also to the disconnect between our current leadership and the new deputies. None of the new deputies have that tattoo. Ms. Castro, no one joins that stuff anymore.
How about the industry Indians? This is an investigation that happened in 2022, looking at a deputy gang out of the industry station. There were several people, including a sergeant, that came forward and said, yes, we are part of the industry Indians.
Is this the bowling incident one?
This is the bullion incident, yes. So
yes,
that was in 2022.
I know who you're talking. I know
Yeah.
exactly the incident you're talking about right now. Again, I can't keep up with these childish nicknames that they come up with. But did they get fired for being members of a gang?
I don't believe that
They
was
did
it.
not. And if they were members of a gang, how come they were not prosecuted?
Well, I did get a comment from not our current district attorney, prior district attorney
George
Gascon. When I asked him about prosecuting for people being members of a deputy gang, his response was that was something that they were not going to prosecute for.
Again, the district attorney only prosecute things that they know they can prove. That's what I was telling you. So in this case, absolutely. If they assaulted some juveniles, if they committed some kind of policy violation, 100%, we got to hold them accountable. But it goes back to what I was telling you. But they had nothing to do with being a gang. Now, they probably did have this tattoo. What do they call it?
Industry Indians.
The industry Indians. Yeah, okay, whatever. The industry Indians. But again, that in itself is not a crime, is what I'm trying to tell you. If I sit here with 4 guys from my old unit in the Marine Corps, we're going to have a reunion here in July, and we all have tattoos of our last unit, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, and we're just here drinking beer, and you come to us, who are you? We're members of the 1st Battalion, 1st Marine reunion group. Am I a gang? No. But if I go to that table and I beat somebody up to improve my standing at 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, then I do have a crime for being a gang member. So again, we have to understand that difference. I am 100% going to go after those deputies that violate the law and violate our policies. But when I don't have a policy, when I don't have a evidence to prove that they did this in furtherance of a gang, the lawsuit is going to be even bigger than the amount of money we were talking about earlier.
Right, and to be clear, being a member of a gang on its face in the state of California is not a crime.
But that's, to me, you don't want law enforcement officers to be part of a gang either. But
of course not. No.
I just don't think they are a gang. They're just a group of young deputies with matching the two who have pride. And again, would I myself do that? No. Like I said before, I don't have any tattoos. But that being said, they're not committing any crime in furtherance of that gang. The whole idea of we have this secret society in law enforcement protecting each other, let me tell you the truth, that's not true at all. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you heard the term that snitches get stitches.
Of course.
Not in law enforcement. Snitches get promoted. So there's no such thing of us keeping secrets. Nobody wants bad cops out of the force faster than us, the good cops. So the whole thing is completely, again, selling our story. It is not true whatsoever.
How about deputies in the department who are dealing with corruption or retaliation themselves for reporting bad behavior? I've heard many stories from deputies that have dealt with this while working. What policies would you put in place to not only protect deputies from retaliation, but also to encourage deputies to report misconduct?
Are you saying like retaliate, like internal?
Internal.
Oh, okay, I got you. 100%. Whether you agree with it or not, if you believe there's some kind of retaliation against you, if you believe there's some kind of misconduct going on, whether it be you're protected by the whistleblower laws, whatever have you, you have the right to pursue that. I don't think there's a need for me to create any new policies. The policies are there. The laws are there. I mean, the whistleblower protection laws are already there. I guess maybe to answer your question, I would definitely encourage people, look, if you believe there's some kind of misconduct, if you believe you were retaliated against, by all means, come forward. You don't feel comfortable coming forward to us, the department, there's this other entity, whether it be the EEOC, federal level or state level, whatever have you, you can go and report it to them. I'm going to cooperate to the best of my ability, and as long as the law allows me to do so, I will cooperate so that they can resolve whatever case they're looking for.
How do you plan to evaluate deputy job performance?
Every rank is different. The way I evaluate a deputy sheriff is different than the way I evaluate a chief. Everyone is different in according to, and even deputy sheriffs, you have detectives, arson explosive investigators, canine officer, those are the ones with the dog and so forth. So I think the evaluation has to be based on the current job that they're doing. Right now we have one evaluation model for everybody. Makes absolutely no sense. And it's not a new idea what I'm telling you here. Again, I learned that from the military. Every rank has its own evaluation system, its own criteria. So definitely I'm going to make sure that we do that. It's specific to the job of the deputy and how they're performing. If not, we're going to have the Peter Principle, the way we have it right now. For those of you who don't know, the Peter Principle is you promote people to the highest level of their incompetence. And that's exactly what we're doing right now.
Since we're talking about deputies and, deputy performance really and standing in the department, I want to talk to you about deputy wellness.
Yes.
I think that is a huge topic right now, especially for people in the department, people with family members in the department. There's been a lot of dissatisfaction over the past 4 years under Sheriff Robert Luna. In particular, I want to talk to you about doubles, mandatory doubles. Last year, a 21-year-old deputy, Daniel Chavara, died in a car crash after working a double shift. And multiple double shifts a week are frequently required by the department, which deputies have complained about for years. How will you make sure that your deputies are mentally healthy and in a position to protect and serve our communities?
And I want to thank you for bringing that up, because that's a very important issue. And if you go to my website right now, I have deputy wellness as one of my 3 priorities. That being said, And this one I gotta, we gotta get Luna off the hook on this one. In that we had doubles before Luna was sheriff, so we have always done that. So it goes back to we need to change our internal culture as well, and the way we deploy our resources right now is completely outdated, and it does not do any good for the wellness of our deputies. Our deputies are required to work 8-hour shifts a day. The double is when you do 2 of those, 16-hour shifts a day. The vast majority of law enforcement agencies, the entire industry for the most part, have moved to compressed schedules, whether it be 410, 10 hours for 4 days each day, or 312s, 12 hours for each day. What does that do? It reduces the overtime because that people have more time off, so they can do whatever they're going to do on their time off. It reduces the amount of staying over your shift because you have 12 hours now to finish whatever you got to do, and it improves morale. And you want morale. Even the people out there should be concerned about deputy morale, because when deputies have higher morale, they feel supported, they're going to be more proactive, which means we the people are going to be safer. So the problem is the way we deploy our resources. We need to have compressed schedules. So what I'm going to do as sheriff, as far as the double issue, is I'm going to talk to our unions, POPA and ALATs, and say, look, we need to change the schedule. We need to have compressed schedule like everybody else is doing. I'm not coming up with anything new. And then once I get a buy-in from the unions, I'm going to go to our contract cities because they're the ones who are paying. And I said, look, I know this is the way we've done it for the last 45 years. It needs to change. It may cost you a little more. It may cost you a little less if you decide to reduce some of the services. But we need to change. This 8 hours a day model is no longer working. We need to have compressed schedule. Here's what the unions have agreed with me to do. I would like to get your buy-in, and in the long term, this is going to be better for you. You're going to get better service, and our deputies are going to get more sleep and going to have higher morale.
There have been several instances of the 911 system completely failing. What's your plan to fix that issue?
Technology. The department, the LA County Sheriff's Department, is the largest sheriff's department in the world and the least technologically advanced department in the world. It is ridiculous. In the world of artificial intelligence, we have deputies handwriting reports. The 911 system, again, this is where leadership, the main, I believe, in my opinion, one of the main elements that a leader has to have is foresight. We saw this problem coming up 10 years ago, and we did nothing. We kicked the bucket. Somebody else is going to handle it. We need to have better technology. Is it going to cost money? Yes, it's going to cost a lot of money. But that's reality. That's part of policing. That's part of the budget. That's part of working with the board of supervisors to get those resources. So in my opinion, we need better technology to improve the 911 system, and we need to start looking at artificial intelligence. There's many times when you call a company nowadays asking for some type of service, I guarantee you that's not a live person you're talking to. It sounds like a live person, but it's actually an artificial intelligence person. We got to implement that as well in law enforcement, because let's be honest, we have less and less recruits coming in the door right now, so we need to look at technology to replace that.
You think that AI could be a helpful venue to make up some of the vacancies that we're seeing in the department? The department is severely understaffed as it stands today.
Not what I think, I know. And I will share with you, I just wrote an article that was published about artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence can help us with our recruitment. We can fight it until kingdom come, but it's here. It's here. You know, AI, in my opinion, when it comes to policing, is like a train. You either watch the train go by, you try to get in front of the train to stop it, or you get on the train and get on the ride. So 100% I believe we need to start implementing artificial intelligence in report writing, in drones, in vehicles, and dispatch.
I want to switch gears again and talk a bit about the jails. So my question is focused on Men's Central Jail specifically. The Board of Supervisors voted to close it 5 years ago, citing the facility as antiquated, conditions being so terrible that the California Department of Justice is suing the county about them. Mm-hmm. We see dozens of people being held there that die every year, and the jail still remains open. Do you agree with the plan to close the jail? And if yes, do you have a plan to execute it?
Well, I agree with the plan to close the jail, but we need a new jail. We got to build a new jail. And the Board of Supervisors voted in April 2019 not to go forward with building the new jail after spending $80 million, which I think it's a shame. But at the time, that sheriff in 2019 agreed with them, but I disagree with that. We need a new jail. Men's Central Jail has to go. And I'll go further than that. Pitchers Detention Center right here, North facility and East facility also need to be closed, but they need to be replaced. We need a new jail. And no, we don't need to build a new jail hospital. We don't need to build a new mental health center. If you want that, go talk to the Department of Health. I'm running for sheriff. We need a new, bigger jail to keep criminals in, not out.
Going off of that, you touched on mental health. The jail system in Los Angeles County has become the largest de facto care center for people suffering with mental health issues. And a large number of those folks are also homeless. And you spoke a little bit about, at the beginning of our conversation, about sheriff's deputies interfacing with homeless people. What do you think the role of the sheriff's department is when it comes to the homelessness issue here in Los Angeles County?
Homelessness is not a law enforcement issue. The sheriff's department should only be involved when there's a crime or a third person, just like mental health. So to answer your question directly, we have a secondary role when it comes to homelessness. If I am elected sheriff, I'm going to talk to my contract cities and I'm going to tell them, whatever your plan is for homelessness, it needs to be services first. But that's not my job. That's somebody else's job. We'll stand by to see if there's any crime, such as drug abuse. Sexual assault is rampant among the homeless community. Homeless women are raped 2 times more than a woman that's not homeless. We will be there to provide the law enforcement aspect, but law enforcement is not the face of the homeless issue. That being said, I'm also going to make sure my contract city know this. We will only be involved if you're willing to support my officers should they use force, including deadly force, in whatever operation you have to fight the homeless issue.
Homeless, as you mentioned, homeless people are frequently victims
Yes.
of violent crime. How would you go about providing safety to these unhoused residents?
I'm not. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not. That will be a lie for me to tell you I'm going to keep them safe. It's impossible. So if any candidate is telling you this is what I'm going to do to keep homeless people safe, they're lying to you. We don't know where they're at half the time. We don't have a way to communicate with them. Most of the times, they're going to be on the other side of this hill where no one ever goes there, no one ever sees them. So it's 100% impossible for me to say I'm going to keep them safe. That's why I go back to the political class, through whatever Department of Social Services the county or a particular city has. That's their job to figure that out. Once we find out, we're going to do our best to do an investigation and seek prosecution if we have a suspect or a person of interest. But that being said, it is impossible for me to say, I'm going to keep the homeless people safe, because that's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Another topic that's very top of mind for voters right now is immigration. The department has a policy broadly to not, assist ICE insofar as providing information on detainees, people that are incarcerated. What role do you think the sheriff's department should play in immigration enforcement?
I want to say, first of all, I am an immigrant. I came to this country for a better life like millions of other people. There's a difference between immigration and illegal immigration. The reason why I came to this country and my family came to this country, because this is a nation of laws, and we have laws in this country. And if you come into this country without permission, without approval, you're breaking the law. Whether it be civil or criminal law, it doesn't matter. You're breaking the law. All politics are local, that being said. The sheriff's department and no local law enforcement agency, in my opinion, should be out there enforcing immigration law. Not only are my deputies not trained to do that, we don't have the civil protection to do so either. This is my approach to the immigration and what we should do to make our communities better. Because at the end of the day, what you're seeing out there, there's raids that ICE is doing, the uses of forces that you're seeing out there committed by ICE. We have no one to blame but our local elected officials. We have refused to work with ICE for the last 10 years. And that's why they're doing what they're doing out there. We kicked them out of our jails. Even here in the sheriff's department, more locally, Sheriff Villanueva kicked ICE out of the jails. And then SB 54 even made that stronger, that we are not to work with ICE inside the jails. That is the wrong approach. We need to amend SB 54 and allow local sheriff's offices to work with ICE inside the jails. When I'm able to work with ICE inside the jails, I'm going to be able to turn over illegal criminal aliens that committed state crimes, give them over to ICE so they can be deported.
We've also seen a number of protests come out as a result of immigration enforcement here in Los Angeles County. And I'm sure you are familiar with the history of the Sheriff's Department and violent response to protesters that have many years ago resulted in the deaths of people.
Yes.
Contemporary times, we've seen deputies responding with batons, OC spray, that sort of thing. Do you agree with that approach to people protesting and exercising First Amendment rights?
So I've been to some of these protests as a lieutenant and as a sergeant, and I never seen a deputy either shoot a projectile or use a baton or use deadly force on someone protesting. I've never seen that. I've seen them do that against people committing a riot. I've seen them do that against people throwing rocks. I've seen them do that people trying to hit one of our horses. But I have never seen a deputy go up to someone that's protesting with a baton. If you have evidence of that, I would love to see it.
In Compton, I believe, or not Compton, it was right on the line of Compton and Gardena, I believe, in June of 2025. Some reporters that I work with captured deputies using batons on protesters.
Was any orders given before that?
Dispersal orders?
Yes.
I believe there were dispersal orders given.
You violated the law. So you have two options after you violate the law. Either you submit to the authority of law enforcement, and if you believe they're wrong, you sue them later on, or we're going to have to use force to execute that order. You were warned. You were advised. And our policies, we always give the advisement in English and Spanish. So you can't say you didn't hear or you didn't understand it. So again, I have never seen a deputy use force in a protest to people that are just protesting. There's usually a violation of the law on the other side before we use force. And it goes back to what I was telling you earlier. We don't sell our story. What I just told you, the sheriff didn't come out and say that. So the people have no choice but believing whatever the media feeds them. But again, yes, I'm in favor of batons. I'm in favor of projectiles, non-lethal weapons on those people that violate the law or are committing a riot, not just protesting and using their First Amendment rights.
In summary, as sheriff, should you be elected, who would you be accountable to? And in what ways would you make that accountability possible?
We the people. The sheriff answers to we the people. The United States is the only country in the entire world that allows we the people to elect the man or the woman that has a badge and a gun and enforces the law. It is the only country in the world where you have the right and the privilege of electing your sheriff. So the sheriff is a constitutional officer, not a politician. Yes, decide he has to be a politician. The moment I said I'm running for sheriff, I am now a politician. But the sheriff answers to we the people, to the Constitution of the United States. That being said, the sheriff has to work with other entities, the board of supervisors, the district attorney. And in the case of the LA County Sheriff's Department, the sheriff has to be able to work with 44 out of our 88 cities that contract with the Sheriff's Department. So there's oversight in the city councils, oversight in the city managers, and that communication has to be back and forth. The mutual respect has to be there. So again, the sheriff answers to only we the people as a constitutional officer, and he has to be able to work with other entities to ensure that the job gets done.
And my final question for you, I like to have a little bit of fun with this one. So
I'm scared now. This is the first time I'm scared.
No, we're gonna have fun. So there have been lots of songs written about law enforcement, policing, and in campaigns, frequently there's a campaign song, right? So I wanna ask you, if you were going to pick a song to represent your campaign and your outlook for the Sheriff's Department, should you be elected, what would that song be?
Toby Keith, Red, White, and Blue.
Why that song?
I'm all about America. I'm all about America. I'm all about the Constitution. I love this country. I love the opportunity that this country has given me. I love the ability to raise my children here. I have a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old. My 6-year-old daughter is going to 15 here pretty soon. I just love to have the opportunities and the chances that this great country has given me. As a veteran, people tell me, thank you for your service. And I say, no, thank you to America. This is the greatest country in the world. There is no other nation like this. If we lose America, it's going to be a world of darkness. So I believe in America. That's why Red, White, and Blue by Toby Keith will be my theme song if I don't have to pay royalties. I know a lot of deputies probably going to see this and like, why are you talking to her? I want to thank you for what you do. I want to thank you for keeping up the fight. You and I will not always agree on everything, but I definitely, if I am blessed to be elected sheriff, I would love to answer any questions that you may have. Because if I don't answer those questions, if I don't come to you, if I don't have a professional relationship with you where we can share information and clarify things, well, you're gonna get the information from someone else. It may not be the right information. So I thank you for what you're doing, even though we disagree with in a lot of things. Continue doing what you're doing, and don't let them get you down. You do your thing, and I hope to be able to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.